Well, hello everyone, and Merry Christmas. Today is the 14th of December, so it's not long to Christmas Day now. And I thought I would update you with my latest ERNEST SATOW publication, which is this one, ERNEST SATOW'S Japanese Book Collection at Cambridge University Library. And there's a subtitle, Sharaku and the Origins of the Zoho Ukiyo-e ruikō manuscript. The original book was by Noboru Koyama, who was a librarian for many years, the Japanese librarian at Cambridge University Library. And this is a translation of his book from Japanese to English, which I have done and completed this year. It's available this is the hardcover, and it's also available in the paperback version. Okay, both of them published through Amazon KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, and in fact there is also a Kindle book as well. Okay, so I'll just give you a little bit of an insight into the inside. There we are. Well, there's the contents. You can see it's quite detailed. There's 3 pages of contents, and then there are these are Japanese manuscripts at Cambridge University Library. And then we've got an Ukiyo-e, the portrait, and the portrait of ERNEST SATOW himself, both in the public domain, and then various other illustrations. And at the very end, there is, almost the last illustration is this one, which is quite interesting. It was taken in 1921 at Cambridge University Library. It's the Crown Prince of Japan, as he then was, later Emperor Showa, visiting the library in 1921. The library, as it's shown in this photograph, is in fact now the Gonville and Caius College Library. It's not the present Cambridge University Library, which was built in the 1930s. Okay, so I'd just like to read my acknowledgements as translator, and then the introduction by Professor Peter Kornicki. Okay, so here we go with the acknowledgements. My first translation from Japanese, published in 2004, was of a book by Noboru Koyama titled in English, Japanese Students at Cambridge University in the Meiji Era, 1868 to 1912, Pioneers for the Modernization of Japan. It has been a great pleasure to work on another of his books, and I must first thank him most sincerely for agreeing to this translation and for his help in its preparation, particularly in the reading of Japanese names, book titles, and the more difficult quotations in Old Japanese. Personal names are given in the Japanese order, family name before given name. My sincere thanks are also due to Professor Peter Kornicki, known internationally for his scholarship on the history of the book in Japan, for his excellent introduction and many helpful comments on readability. Images credited to Cambridge University Library are reproduced by kind permission of the syndics of Cambridge University Library. The original title of this book in Japanese was ERNEST SATOW to Zōshō no Yukue, Zoho Ukiyo-e ruikō no Raireku wo Megutte, ERNEST SATOW and the Fate of His Book Collection concerning the provenance of Zoho Ukiyo-e ruikō. It was published by Bensei Shuppan in Tokyo in November 2020. I have published this translation through Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, and all errors are mine. Ian Ruxton, Emeritus Professor of English, Kyushu Institute of Technology, 26th of October 2022. And now the introduction by Professor Peter Kornicki. Noboru Koyama has written many books exploring some of the byways of Anglo-Japanese relations. They include a study of the British royal family's fascination with Japanese tattoos, which reveals that King George V had himself tattooed while he was in Japan as a young man, and an examination of the earliest international marriages between Japanese and foreigners. In 2018, he published Senso to Toshokan, Eikoku Kindai Nihongo Correction no Rekishi, War and Libraries, the History of the Modern Japanese Language Collections in Britain, which draws on his long experience to tell the story of how British libraries acquired collections of modern Japanese books in the post-war years. In this book, he turns his attention to Cambridge University Library, where he worked tirelessly for many years as the Japanese librarian. Towards the end of the book, he briefly outlines the growth of the Japanese collection in the 20th century, but his focus is rather on Ernest Mason Sato, 1843 to 1929, whose name is much better known in Japan than in Britain. Sato first reached Japan in 1862 as a student interpreter in the British Consular Service, which at the time was separate from the diplomatic service. During his 20 years in Japan, he became one of the few Europeans with proficiency both in the spoken and the written languages. He then transferred to the diplomatic service, and after service in Bangkok, Montevideo, and Morocco, he returned to Japan as minister in 1895. He was succeeded by Sir Claude MacDonald in 1900, who was the first to enjoy the title of ambassador to Japan when the status of the post was raised in 1905. Koyama's real focus is not on the collection as a whole, but rather on a small number of manuscripts dating from the end of the Edo period, 1600 to 1868, which were acquired in Japan by Sato and which ended up in Cambridge University Library in 1911. At first sight, this may seem somewhat strange. After all, it was during the Edo period that commercial publishing developed rapidly and led to the production of a vast range of woodblock printed books. However, Koyama is right to highlight the continuing importance of manuscripts in Japanese book culture. Manuscripts continued to be produced for a variety of reasons, including the avoidance of censorship, a preference for handwritten calligraphy on fine paper, and a desire to keep some forms of knowledge private. Sato was an avid book collector, and amongst his acquisitions were a number of manuscripts on Japanese art. He also bought Ukiyo-e from Hayashi Tadamasa, 1853 to 1906, the famous art dealer who was based in Paris. These purchases were at least partly connected with an unfulfilled plan Sato had for a book on Japanese art to be written jointly by him and by William Anderson, 1842 to 1900, who went out to Japan in 1873 as professor of anatomy and surgery at the new Imperial Naval Medical College and formed an important collection of Japanese art. Most of Anderson's collection ended up in the British Museum, and Sato too sold his collection of Ukiyo-e to the museum, including 25 prints by Sharaku and 24 by Utamaro. Sharaku is the most enigmatic of ukiyo-e artists. He was active only for a short period, 1794 to 95, and his identity remains unknown. The most important source on Sharaku is a study of ukiyo-e artists compiled by the antiquarian Saito Gesshin, 1804 to 1878, which bears the title Zoho Ukiyo-e ruikō, and which only survives in the form of numerous manuscript copies. According to Zoho Ukiyo-e ruikō, Sharaku's real name was Saito Jurobe, and he was a no actor in the service of the Awa domain in what is now Tokushima Prefecture in Shikoku. It has not yet proved possible to confirm this, and there are many alternative theories about Sharaku's true identity. The copy of Zoho Ukiyo-e ruikō, written in 1844 in Saito Gesshin's own hand, is one of the books which Sato acquired in Japan, and its importance lies in the fact that it differs from other manuscripts, which are all secondary copies. In this book, Koyama explores in meticulous detail the origins of Zoho Ukiyo-e ruikō, which was partly based on biographies of ukiyo-e artists by popular writers of the late 18th and early 19th centuries, such as Ota Nampo, Santo Kyoden, and Shikite Samba. He makes good use of Saito Gesshin's diary, which has now been published, and notes that Sato acquired at least 12 more items from Gesshin's collection, which are all now in Cambridge University Library. He also traces the presence of Zoho Ukiyo-e ruikō in the writings of Sato's librarian, Shiraishi Mamichi, 1848 to 1880, and in the many extant catalogues of Sato's collection now held either in Cambridge University Library or Yokohama Archives of History. In translating this book into English, Ian Ruxton has applied his own extensive knowledge of Satow's life, diaries, and letters. This translation will inevitably be of great value to collectors and scholars of Ukiyo-e, who will be glad to have access to the results of Koyama's indefatigable researches in English. At the same time, it is an important addition to our knowledge of Sato as a Japanologist. Ruxton deserves our heartfelt thanks for having labored to make a difficult text accessible in English. Peter Kornicki, Emeritus Professor of Japanese, University of Cambridge, 24th of September, 2022. And that is it. Well, I'll just give you one more glance at the cover. There we are, available on Amazon. The hardcover is available from Amazon.com and from Amazon in Germany, Amazon.de, I think it is. But the paperback is available from all of the Amazons. And with that, thank you very much, and Merry Christmas to all of you. Goodbye now, and see you again soon.